Today we're making this caramelized onion and goat cheese tart. This one is so easy to make with store-bought puff pastry, and it's a great Easter appetizer. Hi, I'm Tara with Simply Made Eats, and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are making this lovely caramelized onion and goat cheese tart. This one is delicious. It's great for an Easter appetizer, and I love it because a lot of my puff pastry recipes are sweet, and this one has the perfect amount of savory. If you're using a frozen puff pastry sheet, you wanna go ahead and leave it on the countertop now. It needs to sit out for about 40 minutes before we start this recipe. We're also gonna be preheating our oven to 400 degrees. As an alternative to this frozen puff pastry, you can also get it fresh. I know Just Roll makes a really good product, and it's usually near the eggs. I like that a little bit better because you can just pull it right out of the fridge once you're ready to make it, and you don't have to worry about it getting too warm or too cold. They just didn't have it at my grocery store, so I grabbed this instead, it works fine too. The prep work for this recipe is super easy. We're just gonna be using one onion. Well, I guess it adds up to one onion. So we're gonna be using a half of a red onion, a half of a yellow onion. I like the flavor from both of them together, but you can definitely just use one or the other too if you don't have them on hand. We're also gonna be chopping up one garlic clove. We just wanna mince this nice and fine. And then we've got some thyme. This is fresh thyme, and you just wanna use the leaves for this, not the stems. Whenever you're chopping up onions for caramelized onions, you wanna make sure to slice them really similar in size. That's just gonna help it cook better. I like to shoot for slices about a 1/4 inch thick. And these are gonna be cooking for about 20 minutes, so you don't wanna cut them too thin because, then they're just gonna overcook. Next, we're gonna be getting our caramelized onions ready. I like to use a stainless steel skillet for this. It just distributes the heat really well, and it's just a great pan in general. We're gonna be using a medium-low heat because we don't wanna burn these too quick. If you see them browning at all, you need to go ahead and drop your heat. Once that pan is nice and hot, go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of butter and allow it to melt. Then we're gonna toss in our onions. This is a process, so we're gonna cook these for 10 minutes covered. We wanna stir halfway through. Then you're gonna uncover them. We're gonna add in a little bit of salt and pepper. Then we're gonna cover them again, cooking for another 10 minutes, stirring halfway through. As our onions caramelize, we're gonna do a little bit of multitasking. So the first thing we're gonna do is whip up an easy egg wash. This is just gonna go on the outside of our puff pastry. It just makes it fluff up like perfectly golden brown and looks so yummy. We're also gonna add in a tablespoon of water and just whisk this up. I like to leave my whisk in here so that I can whisk it one more time before I paint it on to the outside edges. Next, we're gonna head back over to our onions. We're gonna go ahead and give these a really nice stir and add in our minced garlic. You just wanna cook this for about 2 to 3 minutes until it's nice and fragrant. Then we're gonna turn off the heat and just set this aside until we're ready for them. Next, we're gonna get our goat cheese spread that we're gonna spread on our puff pastry ready. We've got 4 ounces of goat cheese. I like to let this sit out for about 30 minutes before I actually make the mixture. That way it's just like a little bit softer and creamier, easier to work with. And I like to use just a regular goat cheese. Don't get like a flavored one because it can just kind of throw off things a little bit. Next, we're gonna add in a tablespoon of honey. This just adds a nice sweetness to it. Our goat cheese is really tangy, and I like to have like the mixture. Next, we're gonna add in those fresh thyme leaves. And then I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of dried rosemary with a 1/8 of a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. If you don't like spicy, you can definitely leave those out. It's no big deal. I just love like all the different flavors in this spread. It's so good. And then you're just gonna take your spoon and just push down on that. We just wanna blend this all together. You can also use a mixer for this recipe, but I like to just save time and just do it like this. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. We don't have to whip it or anything. And you can see like the longer that you leave that goat cheese out, the more it's gonna be a lot easier to work with. Once our caramelized onions are all ready, we're gonna go ahead and line a cookie sheet with some parchment paper, and then we're gonna unroll our puff pastry. And I just realized that I bought like 2 sheets instead of 1, but it's fine. Just look for, if you get 1 sheet, it's easier. I'm gonna have to kind of work mine together, but if you have 2, you can just follow this recipe too. It's no big deal. So I'm just gonna pinch mine together. You're looking for 1 17-ounce sheet is what you really want, but this is gonna do just fine as well. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna take a pizza cutter and just run about halfway through the dough. We don't want to go all the way through, but what we're doing is we're just creating a crust. So we'll kind of know like where to spread our goat cheese mixture, and then our egg wash is going to go on this outside. Next, we're going to take our goat cheese mixture and just spread a really nice thin layer onto our puff pastry. You want to leave that outside edge just plain because we're going to be using that with our egg wash. And at this point, the goat cheese should be like really nice and soft and super easy to work with. Next, we're going to take our onions and just put them right over the top, just kind of spread them out evenly. Then last but not least, we want to brush on our egg wash on the outsides. Try not to mix it too much with the goat cheese. Next, we're going to pop this puff pastry tart into the oven for about 13 to 15 minutes until that outer layer is really nice and golden. This just came out of the oven. It looks so good. It's a little bit puffy right now, but when we let it cool, it'll sink down just a bit. You can see as it starts to cool, it almost looks like a pizza. We're actually going to cut it with a pizza cutter too, and you can cut this into small squares or large squares, really however you like. If you're serving a lot of people, just chop it up into smaller pieces. That's it, we're all done with this caramelized onion goat cheese puff pastry tart. I hope you guys love this one. It's a mouthful, but it's so easy to make. Thanks so much for watching. Try this one for Easter and let me know in the comments if you make it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe for new recipe videos every single week. I love sharing them with you. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye. So good. The caramelized onions and the balsamic glaze are yummy.